If you make between $47,000 and $142,000 per year, then you need to watch this entire video, because what President Joe Biden is about to say could actually impact how much money you bring home every single month. Now, I'm going to break that down in just a moment. We're going to talk about middle class tax cuts. We're going to talk about taxing billionaires, taxing large corporations, and actually providing somewhat of a deficit for our spending. We're going to address all that in today's video, so make sure you stick around for this entire thing. All I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds. Go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So today is a very big day. Later on today, Thursday, March 7th, we are going to have the State of the Union address. This is going to come from President Joe Biden. This is going to happen at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But in this, okay, Joe Biden, he's going to deliver, this is his final State of the Union address before the election. This is big. And the reason why this is big is because of what he says. Right now, we know President Biden has a 38.1% approval rating. This is very low. And we are expecting he's going to talk about low unemployment. He's going to talk about lowering interest rates and also the legislation that has yet to be passed. But there's some other things that aides from the White House are already saying he is going to discuss. Here are some of them. President Biden to call in State of the Union address for business tax hikes, middle class tax cuts, and lower deficits. The reason why this is so important is because 50% of all adult households are considered middle class. If we provide a tax cut to 50% of adult households, what would this do to those voters? Because again, keep this in mind. Just because the president asked for something does not mean Congress is going to give it to him. And in this case, with this current Congress, there's no way it's going to happen. So what you are about to hear in this State of the Union address is going to be almost wishful thinking. But I want to address what is going to be in it, because this is big, what he's asking for. All right? And we're going to go through it. We're going to read this article right now. Let's go ahead and get started. It says right here, the Democratic president in this election year is refining the economic agenda that he's been pushing since the 2020 presidential race, and says he's addressing voters' concerns about cost of living. It says Biden's agenda is unlikely to become law and serve as something serves as something of a sales pitch to voters. That's really all it is. And here's the problem. He's simply going to push his economic agenda from the 2020 election. Things have changed since 2020. Major changes. Right? We've seen a lot of changes. And this is something that the 2020 agenda that he had, this is not what we need. This is not what the American people are asking for. Let's keep reading. It says in a preview of Biden's remarks, the president would contrast his proposals with Republican plans to extend former President Donald Trump's expiring tax breaks and further slash corporate tax rates. Here's the thing. Republicans are saying that they want President Trump's tax breaks. These are tax breaks. But yet, President Biden is saying that, no, we need to increase taxes. We need to tax people more, not less. And so again, he's going the opposite direction. This is not what Republicans are ever going to vote for. But let's keep reading. It says under Biden's proposal, corporations would no longer be able to deduct the expense of employer pay above $1 million. That will actually raise about $270 billion over 10 years. He also wants to raise the corporate tax rate to 28% from 21%, among other measures. And as Biden has previously proposed, major companies would be charged a minimum tax rate so that they could not avoid the IRS through accounting maneuvers, deductions, and specialized tax breaks. It says and we'll go into that in just a moment, but we are going to charge people, or corporations cannot deduct the expense of employee pay above $1 million. You know how they get around that? And I know it says here among other measures, but you know how they get around that? They give people stock options. You know why some businesses, some CEOs get a pay of $1? It's because they have to get paid. They get paid $1 per year. So they're taxed on that $1. The rest are stock options. Okay? That's how they get around it. So again, all corporations are going to do is give people $1 million. They're going to give them less, but they're going to give them something else in return. So yes, you'll have to pay eventually, but it might not be anytime soon. Let's keep reading. It says billionaires would need to pay a minimum of 25% in federal taxes on their income under his plan. It says people earning more than $400,000 per year would also pay higher Medicare taxes to ensure the program's financial viability. Again, we're seeing that $400,000 number. The reason why that's even there is because President Biden said early on in his 2020 campaign that anybody making less than $400,000 per year would not see a penny more in taxes. However, that is going to come. And the reason why that's going to be there is simple. If businesses and large corporations are charged an additional tax, are charged more money, you think they're just going to accept it and say, oh, well, we're just going to make less money? No. They're going to push that additional tax over to you, over to me. So is this really going to save the middle class any money? Oh, in taxes, possibly. But as far as the cost of living, this is where things are going to actually flip the other way. And we might pay more because of these changes. But again, the federal government's going to bring in more taxes. But in the end, the American people are going to pay more. So does it look good on the outside? Yes. Does it actually become effective and efficient? No. Let's keep reading. It says Biden would use some of those revenues to pay for expansions of the Earned Income Tax Credit and Child Tax Credit. These would help the lower income families. These would really help out lower income families. Also, it would help out those with very little income. Okay, very, very little income. He's also seeking to permanently make health insurance premiums lower for those who receive their medical coverage through the 2010 Affordable Care Act. That is something that they've been discussing. That's something that many people have talked about, Republicans as well, but just hasn't done anything for it. Last one, aides say Biden's forthcoming budget plan would trim the national deficit by $3 trillion over 10 years. Now, here's where things are at. Could President Biden trim $3 trillion off for a national deficit? Yes, he could. But here's what normally happens. We save a little bit of money and we cut back on our national deficit. That drops. But in the same time, there's a difference. Let's say it's $300 billion per year. That $300 billion in most cases then gets picked up by other programs and then they spend it. So in the end, we're not actually cutting back on our debts. Our deficit continues to grow because then we take that money and we push it somewhere else. For instance, let's say we save money doing all these tax breaks and changes, but then we give $60 billion to Ukraine. We give another $10 billion to Israel. More, another, let's say, $10 billion to Gaza and the Indo-Pacific. We give some money to Taiwan, right? All that money keeps adding back up. And eventually, we never cut anything. We just save money here so that we can move it over there. And so again, that's what we've been seeing over the past few years. Now, here's what I can tell you. This is all going to come tonight. President Biden is going to address all this stuff tonight. But here's what I want you to look for if you're going to watch the State of the Union address. What I need you to look for is, how does President Biden say these things? And what is the response from both Democrats and Republicans. We know when President Biden says he's going to cut taxes, he has these big plans, most likely Democrats are going to stand up, they're going to smash their hands together, right? And they're going to look like they're very excited for it. But do we ever see a vote on it? That's the question. As of right now, it's highly unlikely because number one, if Democrats are pushing for higher taxes for corporations, guess what? Those corporations are not going to be contributing to their campaign. They're just not going to do it. Why would I, as a leader of some large corporation, give money to, let's say, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer if all he's going to do is raise my taxes as a business owner? It doesn't make sense. So, just watch for those things. Watch for Republicans as well. Do Republicans applaud at any time? Are there any bipartisan, things here that Biden's going to bring up? There might not be. Or, and here's the big one, because this happened last year, where President Biden almost tricked Republicans into saying that they are not going to cut Social Security, that they were not going to provide any cuts to Social Security. They stood up, they clapped, they banged their hands together. Well, let's see if that happens again this time. But that's what we know at this time. As always, as soon as we know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. But that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.